Within the world of Fallen Republic, there are many factions. However, one of them stands out together with the Empire, and that is the Republic Loyalists. The Republic Loyalists, of course, you may know from the movies as the Rebellion. Now, at the start of the game, they will not be the Rebellion yet. No, they are just the Republic Loyalists because the Clone Wars have just finished. And to be honest, in general, you will be in a pretty bad situation. Compared to the Empire, you will be outgunned, especially if the Empire is not shattered, which is one of the starting options within the mod itself. There are other problems, however, with the Republic Loyalists, and that is their positioning as well as their planets. Unlike the Empire, they have a limited amount of worlds, with the capital being on Dantooine here in the Dantooine system, or at least the Dina system. The thing with this is that it is relatively remote, fairly far away for a certain type of defensive starbase to get near it, therefore Alderaan will be blown up instead. However, it does present a decent backbone when it comes to your industrial output. Now, Dantooine is up here in the north part of the galaxy, but there is different problems ahead, and that is this small cluster of Republic Loyalists that are bordering the Empire directly, which of course contains the wonderful system of Alderaan. Look at that, it's Alderaan. It does appear that it is slightly in one piece, which is something that I don't necessarily agree with, but still, it is something that is there. As I mentioned, the Rebellion will start off with a relatively small fleet of about 7k of relatively small ships, such as these MC-75 class cruisers. Now, the thing with the Rebellion is that they've got a couple of very interesting mechanics behind them, and that is, of course, the layout of their tradition tree. Unlike the Empire, they do not have the Moff Council, or as some people have referred to as the Moff Currents. Yes, that is a thing. They have different types of traditions, of course, attached to them, and one of them is the Mon Cal designs. Adopting Mon Cal designs will mean that you will get access to the Mon Calamari ship types, such as the MC-70, MC-75, as well as the larger capital ships. In addition, they have the special Rebel Alliance tradition tree, which will unlock Rebel Alliance event chains. Now, the thing with the Rebel Alliance itself is that it is a very heavily event-based Empire. So let's quickly jump over towards a save game that is a little bit more set up, and then we will find out more about the Alliance. So this is a slightly more extended save file. There is a lot of vassalization going on here. The AI does feel the need to be vassalized quite easily, and such the intergalactic banking clan, as well as the Zabrak colonies, as well as the Doran community, as well as several other empires are ready to join the Alliance at large. Sadly, the Black Sun organization has not joined us just yet, but don't worry, in time they will see the light. One thing that is very important to know about this particular mod is that it leans very heavily on Legends canon, and that means that none of the quote-unquote modern Star Wars, as in the sequel trilogy, is accounted for. And there is a couple of examples here that I'd like to point out. As I mentioned before, the Rebellion starts out relatively underpowered. However, in certain situations you can find a relic, such as the coordinates of the Katana fleet. Now, the Katana fleet is, as far as I know, part of the Timothy Zahn books, and that's also what most of the lore of these particular events are from. However, it does mean that we can get a relatively large fleet early on using this particular relic. Whether or not you're going to get it is a whole different question. So let's quickly pop over towards our fleets and see what we actually have with us here. As you can see, we got a fleet here that is currently upgrading. Let's just quickly move it out of the way and see what we have. And we have a bunch of early heavy cruisers in the Katana Dreadnought class available to us. Of course, the Katana Dreadnoughts were part of the Republic era. Now, at this point in time, the amount of fleets that we have are still not enough to take on the Empire itself, even though they are going to be lacking pretty much behind when it comes to their technological base, unless they set up for it. In my particular case, I've set up a pretty heavy science-based and resource-based economy, ready to generate the ships that we need. Let's take a quick look here at the ships that we can actually build here as part of our fleets. Early on, the CR-90 is relatively straightforward. It is the classic Rebel fleet. Of course, the very first ship that you will ever see within Star Wars, if you're going to go with the 1979 movies. The Hammerhead Corvette, which was heavily shown inside of the Rogue One movies. The early Corvettes, such as the Pelta class. Of course, the Nebulon B, originally an Empire design, but of course co-opted into the Rebellion fleet. The Quasar Fire design, which is more of a carrier-esque platform. Oh, by the way, the Rebel ships are, in fact, a lot better than the Empire ones at the start of the game. But of course, once the Empire starts getting TIE Defenders and TIE Interceptors, the Rebellion will be outnumbered quite quickly. Then, of course, classic designs like the Victory 2, but then we get to the Mon Calamari designs like the MC40. Of course, it's very bulbous. It does look like two potatoes are completely wedged together and then some more ovals attached to them. Yes, those are part of it. And, of course, the MC80A, and, of course, we have some larger ships as well. The problem that the Rebellion has is that it's significantly outgunned by the Empire, even though the Empire itself has a lot of territory to cover. And let's quickly move forward with our event chain here, as the Rebel Alliance has been formed, and because of this we will start the Civil War event within the game. Now the Rebel Alliance, once it is formed through the event chain, has 5 years to get ready for war, a true civil war with the Empire itself. And that means that politics are becoming really important because our road to the Empire is blocked by the Arcadian Dominion, as in these here aliens. Therefore, we need to make sure that we have a lot of relationships going on with our neighbors and make sure that everybody's happy and can join our alliance when necessary. That even means in some cases that we will need to overthrow the Black Sun organization through ideology wars, but these are the things that need to happen in order for peace and prosperity to return to the galaxy, because as everybody knows, I love democracy. Regardless, as the Senate is sitting over here with a good old Sheev sitting in that chair. How you doing there, Sheev? Yeah, they're going to be sitting up there with Imperial 2s as well as several other larger classes like the Legions or even Bellators. You're going to be running into some serious problems. So let's jump forward a little bit into the game. Actually, before that, let's take a quick look here at our institutions that we will have for the Rebellion. For instance, we can initiate hit and run tactics that allows our ships to be built quicker and also to be able to disengage more easily. So far more guerrilla-style warfare. Rebel raids, of course, will allow you to get improvements to special resources, etc. And finally, as well, before we jump over towards the actual combat side of things, there are a couple of really interesting mechanics behind the Rebellion, and that has been co-opted from the Megacorp system. So let's, for instance, we go towards, say, the Mon Calamari hegemony. Or is it? Oh, it's a monarchy, my apologies. And then we go to the Calamari system. So you can see here, Calamari system has a planetary shipyard around. It's very similar to Kuat. And we can go towards the planet itself and go to this outpost button. Now, through the outpost button, we can build special buildings, very similar to what you would expect through Megacorp systems. In order to play as the Alliance, as far as I know, you will need to have Megacorp to make it work for you. But regardless, we've got all these outpost buildings that we can build, such as the Rebel Partisan base, which will increase our unity output, but also Rebel scrapping operations, which give ourselves more of these here alloys, as well as Rebel smuggling bases. I really hope that once the game, at least the mod, continues to develop, which it most definitely will, we will see more and more of these special buildings coming up for the Rebel Alliance and really tap into the potential of getting special buildings on planet. The Rebel Alliance itself also gets a special type of Federation, sadly one that I don't have access to at the moment. Actually, we can actually take a look here. The Citric hegemony. You want to do a Federation? You probably don't, so we should probably just set a nice little envoy on you and then get a alliance going. As you can see here, we can set a coalition which has gives us a bonus to ethics divergence, a military compact, which means it's basically a dominion. The empire starts like this: a commerce alliance, which you can only have if you are a commerce style empire, a criminal cartel, which is very much Hutt territory, as well as the Black Sun organization, as well as the Confederate Remnant, which is, you know, they can do the Confederation. Basically, they will get access to a whole bunch of stuff from the Clone Wars, and they all hang out here at the bottom of the galaxy. Yes, the Confederate Remnant is, in fact, part of this particular part of the game, as well as it's all set up. But yeah, the unknown regions are here as well. More stuff about that later. And let's quickly dive into some of the combat aspects, as I got a fleet ready over Coruscant, ready to engage the Empire at large. So as we dive forward a little bit here into the future, as you can see, we've got our Rebel fleet over Coruscant right here, as well as an Empire fleet, well, several Empire fleets on standby, including a 1 Bellator class Star Dreadnought. We did not throw in an Executor this time around, but still, we can give it a go. Now, I quickly need to take a look here if we have another fleet on standby. Yes, we have another Armada coming through, so we can we actually jump those? No, we cannot, but still, we're going to go and set this one up and engage this here smaller fleet of ships that we have available to us. Now, of course, the Empire will engage us here, and we're going to go and take a look at how this all works, as well as some of the mechanics that are involved here, including the upgraded visuals that come with this particular mod. Now, the thing here is that the models themselves are scaled quite nicely, as well as fleet spacing in between certain fights. So as soon as the fights starts at least, all the ships will start to space themselves nicely and start crapping out all of these here starfighters. Of course, we got those heavy dreadnoughts as well. This MC-80 Independence is ready to go as well, and as we can take a quick look here at this particular class of ship, we'll see that we've got a lot of X-Wings as well as several other spacecraft available to us. Now, let's take a quick look here, and as you can see visually, it's quite impressive with all of these starfighters being put onto the screen. Now, right now, we're engaging a couple of ships here. It looks like a bunch of Imperial 2s, nothing too special. There's also a nice immobilizer here that was made canon a while back. I believe it was in the Clone Wars. Was it in the Clone Wars? I think, no, it was in the Rebels animated series, as well as a couple of Gladiators. Now, the thing here is that the Rebel fleet does consist of a bunch of their own ship, but also from ships that you can steal throughout your game. Having those in your fleet is going to be a huge boon, and it's going to be really, really important to have. Right now, of course, our ships are engaging at long range, but are we going to be able to stand up against these Imperial 2s? That is a real question. At this point in time, I don't think they will. And even though we have a rather significant amount of firepower, and they've got 62,000, actually scratch that, make that about 150,000 fleet power, we are going to be scratching the surface. Why? Because there is yet another 150,000 fleet power coming in with a Bellator, Legions, as well as several Imperial 2s. And these, of course, are going to cause serious problems and really illustrate the plight of the Rebellion. The Rebellion has a serious production issue at the start of the game. And I would highly recommend not starting the Rebel event change too early on within the game, just so that you can make sure that you have all your systems up and running and can engage the enemy whenever possible. A battle over Coruscant, whilst good, at least from a flashy point of view, will basically result into several MC-80s dying relatively quickly, and you kind of want to avoid that. The ties may not be all that good, but that does not mean that the Star Destroyers themselves will not be able to defend themselves. They are some of the most heavily armored ships within the game. Now, what can we do at this point? Well, at this point, it would be probably a good idea to disengage, but we are at 433 days until emergency FTL is ready, and that has to do with that immobilizer, as our MC-80s are dying left, right, and center, as well as our Katana ships. We're going to run into some serious problems. Even though we can still take a couple of Star Destroyers with us, this is not the approach that we want to have. What we can do instead is bide our time and wait for the Empire to come in with separate fleets and destroy them one by one very quickly, as well as using relics that we find throughout the game that can stop their production. And that is totally possible. There is a couple of really interesting mechanics here that are available towards the Rebellion that allow you to undermine the Empire quite easily. Will you be able to run a trench on a Death Star? No. Defense Station number 1, of course. No, that is not possible. It is a social economic simulation of what a rebellion would look like, how it would work, as well as fleets, etc. Are you as a player at a severe advantage? Absolutely. The AI may not have the ability to get those ships out in time or quickly enough, or may be able even to research those. And you having access to those Mon Calamari ship designs is, of course, a huge advantage to you. But yeah, this is the question then. Are you ready to fight amongst your compatriots among the rebellion? Well, that is the question. Or are you going to go ahead and say hashtag Empire did nothing wrong and these rebels are just a bunch of religious fundamentalists ready to take young boys from planets, dusty planets far, far away, and indoctrinate them within their society? That question I will leave to you. This has been a general overview of the Rebel faction within the brand new Star Wars mod that is coming out in the very near future. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will have a fun time playing it. In the meantime, though, I want to thank my patrons for making this video possible. If you haven't already done so, check out the Patreon. We're having a good time over there. And also, feel free to check out this video here on the very first showcase of this particular mod. Next time, we're going to be taking a look at the Empire. Yes, the Empire itself, to see how the Empire did hashtag nothing wrong.